Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are now listening to That Infernal Noise podcast, part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. Fuck yeah.
What up, y'all? It's another day, another dollar. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for checking us out. Thanks to everybody that's been listening. Numbers steady increasing. It's cool to see. Today I want to talk about my insight. I'm a big proponent of marijuana and its use as a medicine as opposed to something to get you fucked up. I am part of the compassionate use program here in Texas, which means I can use medical marijuana legally. And I do use it as a medicine. 5 milligrams a night. That's all I take. Because I personally don't need more than that. Niche cannot. 5 milligrams, and she's just like, okay, what else? And because of that, and because of the occasional microdose that I do, I've started gaining more and more clarity. More of an understanding of things and myself. Last night was one of those nights. Took my mills, fucking sitting down in bed. Niche was reading. Oh yeah, she was. She was reading her new book that she got yesterday. And I was just kind of fucking off on my phone, and I turned on Return of the Jedi because yesterday James Earl Jones passed, and that hit me right in the fucking childhood. But I started thinking. I got locked in my head, but not in a bad way this time. It was actually kind of helpful. And I have a certain process that I lay down in bed, start relaxing. Niche gets up to brush her teeth after we watch something or she's reading or whatever to get ready for bed and all that. And that's when I take the opportunity to say my prayers. And last night I got stuck on it. Not the prayers themselves, but as I was going through praying for people at the end, I also, at the very, very end, I pray for those that I've lost. And I started crying. Like, I didn't even realize it. I was so lost in thought, in prayer, however you want to put it. But whenever I came out of it, after I was done, like, I had tears just rolling down my cheek. And it wasn't like bad, I wasn't sad. It was emotional. Because it's been getting easier and easier to see my grandma, my mom, Jody, my aunt, and friends I've lost. It's been easier to see them in my head. And those in my family, especially mom and grandma, since they were there day one, I don't see them as they were. I see them as I remember them, and as I remember them is different things over the years. So it turns into like this odd amalgamation of who they are, who they were. Because my Thea posted a picture of her, or of my grandma and my grandpa, one of the last times before she had her stroke. And Like, she didn't look like grandma to me. And I realized it then. Well, I sort of realized it whenever I saw that picture. It's almost like I see their energy, not them. Maybe them as they want to be perceived or how they perceive themselves. I'm not entirely certain. But it just gave me a certain level of comfort and clarity. And I've been going through those awakening, understanding moments a lot lately. Over the weekend, I realized that I've been really self absorbed, and not in a bad way. It's a survival self absorption, not egotistical, because I haven't wanted it. But I noticed that my wife is white knuckling it. And I'm not thrilled about it. I mean, I'm not thrilled that she's white knuckling it, but I'm not thrilled about me pushing her to the wayside, essentially, so I can take care of myself. It gets hard in these moments. Because I don't want to feel like I'm taking advantage of her, but essentially that's what I'm doing. And then I see certain situations play out elsewhere that are very similar, and it goes the other way, where said person isn't as supportive as you would like. And that breaks my fucking heart. I do count my lucky stars that I have a wife and a partner that has supported me through all of this growth and change and everything that I've been through recently. She's been there. She's been my rock, realistically. She's carried me through the bullshit. And I can't thank her enough for that. But the past few days I've had it in me. It's like, okay, now it's time for you to do the heavy lifting. We can't just pretend like I'm the only one that matters. And then I watch my wife have to deal with all of the shit that she's got going on in her head and all the growth that she's trying to attain, and have her just essentially ignore it so she can take care of me and the kids. She doesn't get the credit for being the wife and mother, and hell, even just a friend that she is. And then I can tell it's wearing on her. I worry about her constantly, because very few other people do, and vice versa. We haven't always been the best. Our circumstances surrounding how we get together is evidence enough of that. But I wouldn't want another partner. I've had other partners, and it's not anything that's cracked up to be. Like grass isn't greener type shit. Like, I know. She is my ride or die. She's my fucking Letty. If I'm Dom, she's Letty. I don't know that I'm Dom, but for analogy's sake. Any flight of fancy I've wanted to go on, she's went on it with me. She's supported me. She's been my cheerleader. She's gassed me up whenever I needed to be gassed up. She brought me back down to reality whenever that needed to happen. But she supported me throughout it all. I mean, there were times, but there were times I was a piece of shit too. I'm not saying she was a piece, but whatever. She's the rock of our family. Like, yeah, I'm dependable. And whenever it comes down to crunch time, I'm usually the one that gets called because I just know how to make shit happen whenever it comes down to crunch time. And she does too. But I'm the heavy lifter, as it were. But the only reason I'm able to be the heavy lifter is because she supports me. And I know that I have somebody to have my back with it. And we don't agree all the time. Like, we argue. We sometimes get irritated with each other. Her probably more than me. But that's by design because I definitely antagonize her. And we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I know that. But we're willing to fight for each other. I've carried the weight. She's carried the weight. We've split the weight. And it's gone back and forth so many times in the past almost 13 years that even if we wanted to keep track, we can't. And I like that. I like that because we shouldn't be keeping track. Other relationships I've been in, that's all that was done. Well, you did this, so I did this, and everything was like a tally. It's like, well, you got us in the red, so I put us in the black type shit. And it's just, it's ridiculous. Eye for an eye, the whole world would be blind. I know. I mean, I've always known, but like here recently, it's really been driven home. How much she cares. Like, she gives of herself whenever there's nothing left to give. And like I said, she doesn't get the credit for that. She should. It's real easy to talk shit about her because if you don't know her, like I do, you'll never get it. She has the walls up. She has the armor on almost 24/7, even with me at times. I see way more of the exposed skin than most people. In fact, there's only one other person that gets close to seeing the version of niche that I do. If not the same version. And it's just, it's a motherfucker. Watching somebody you love fall down the spiral. And that's all she's had to do for the past almost 2 years. Because it hurt me whenever I lost my grandma. And I started coming out of it. And as I'm coming out of it, and as I'm getting a little bit better, my mom hit. And that was it for me. Robert went bye-bye. That's why I like these moments of clarity. moments of lucidity where I can look back and say, okay, no, this ain't working. Because I feel like I disassociate. Along with the clarity of mind, it comes with a clarity of sight too, like literal sight. To where during all of that last night, I'm getting ready. I brush out my beard, I change clothes and brush my teeth and all that. And I'm just looking in the mirror. And it's like I can see in high def. I can see like details on my face, the details of the hairs in my beard. And it just makes me realize that I'm just kind of going through the motions on a daily basis and essentially disassociating. It's not as bad as it has been, but it made me realize it last night. So I'm actively today trying to stay present, grounded, focused. Not just for me, but for my wife. And not just for my wife, but for my kids too. Because they all deserve me to be here. And in the process of talking to my wife this weekend, talking about the things that she is going through, it just kind of forced that clarity upon me too. Because I had to acknowledge and be like, look, you're thinking all of this. You're not living in the moment. You're worried about all this stuff and it's consuming you and you're not enjoying life the way you should. And of course, that's what it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, fuck. That's what you've been doing to her. And she's not twisted about it. She's ever gracious of her time and her energy whenever it comes to taking care of me. Physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever. She always has been. Well, not always, but whatever. Especially recently. And now I realize it's time to repay the favor. I don't know what I need to do necessarily, but I do at the same time. I just have to take care of her. The way she took care of me. She didn't ask. She just did. And that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to make sure that she is good. Because with all the changes recently, all the changes in the past 5 years, not even just counting the traumatic shit that we've been through, losing friends left and fucking right because of boundaries. It's weighed on her. The shit that people have said to her because of that. And me seeing the hypocrisy behind it. It's upsetting. Because all she's ever wanted is to be loved. Love the way she wants to be loved, not the way that people have historically loved her. And I've been guilty of that too. I've been guilty of doing it my own way as opposed to the way that she needs me to do it. And it's not beneficial. I have to keep that shit in mind. Because we get so caught up in being mom and dad that we lose Robert and Nisha. And not last weekend, but the weekend before, our oldest took our son, our youngest, and we just got to hang out like we used to. Went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine, and I can't imagine, I can't even remember what it's like to share stuff that I love with the person that I love that's not her. Because it was not even the same fucking thing. I was made to feel stupid, like, oh, it's fucking corny or whatever. And she's just as big a nerd as I am. So whenever I geek out, I explain to her why I'm geeking out. And then she doesn't get the same level, but she gets it. She understands it. And that makes me happy. Especially being somebody that's been made fun of my whole life because I'm into Star Wars, or I'm into this type of music, or I like this movie. Like, it's all dumb shit. I've been judged for so much, and it bothered me for the longest time until she and I got back together. And I broke, basically, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm doing what I want. I'm doing the things that I love to do, and I'm going to enjoy them the way that I want to enjoy them. And she was just like, well, yeah, why wouldn't you? And she's encouraged me. She listens to my asinine ramblings about Star Wars theory, and oh, well, like last night we're watching Return of the Jedi, and I'm like, with all the context of everything that you've seen, if you've seen it all chronologically and da 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 da, and like just explaining all of these ideas, it's like, you know how important Jabba and Boba are if you watch everything from beginning to end, like in chronological order, not in release order. And I was like, so in Return of the Jedi, they kill two of the biggest protagonists in Star Wars immediately. Like, well, not immediately, but at the same time, within the span of minutes of each other. Not knowing what happens to Boba later, blah, 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 blah. And she just looked at me, and it was one of those moments where I could tell she was just like, I don't know exactly what it was, but I think it was, that's him. That's the him that I know is still there. Almost like she was grateful that she could still see it. And with how things have been going, I can't say I blame her. She's described herself as an avid atheist for the majority of her adult life. And now she can't. I mean, she shouldn't have been able to before because of things that I know I was there for as well, but that's neither here nor there. She's stubborn. But now she doesn't know what to think. And to her credit, whenever my mom passed, I started getting into a real dark place. I mean, really dark. Like there was no hope in the world. So I started doing the only thing I knew how to whenever I felt like that as a kid. I started praying again. And I hadn't prayed since my older two were little. Like, I'm not even sure the younger two remember praying. That's how long. My sister and brother-in-law inspired it. But I was afraid that Niche was going to be like, what the fuck are you doing that for? Are you going to ask Santa for a miracle too? Like that type of shit. And she didn't. Because I told her about me being afraid of how she was going to react to it. And she just looked at me and she said, whatever you need to do. If that helps, do it. Because that's the type of person that she is. She doesn't care what she thinks. She cares what makes people happy. Makes me happy, specifically. And other people too, but she stops giving a shit about other people whenever they stop giving a shit about her now. And I've never stopped giving a shit about her. Might not have shown it the correct way all the time, but you live and you learn, I guess. I am grateful for the partner that I have. It sounds corny, and I really don't give a shit. Seeing all of the strife and all of the bullshit in various relationships I've been around, it's just, I know I'm lucky. And it's not even luck. It's hard work. It's dedication. It's a loyalty to each other that even when things go the wrong way, somehow she still has my back. And I still have hers. We try not to judge each other because that's useless in a marriage. We definitely don't keep score anymore. And we communicate every single night. And if not, we do it every single night, but throughout the day too. Like if she's looking down and she goes take a shower, I'm like, hey, how you feeling now? And she'll check in with me periodically too, just to make sure I'm good. Like before I took a shower today, I walked in there and I asked her, I was like, is there anything you need from me before I take a shower? She said no. And then she looked at me very sincerely and, do you need anything? How are you doing today? Which sounds like a stupid question, considering we both work from home and we're both around each other 24/7. But it's the work. And without that work, our fucking relationship would be dog shit. And I know that because it was at one point. I would not trade her for fucking anything. And with that mentality, I have to get up off my ass and do things to make sure she knows I'm here for her. Because we say it all the time. I could say whatever the fuck I want, but it's action. It's changed behavior. And that's what I have to do now. I have to change my behavior. I have to get out of the funk. I'm not saying there's not going to be bad days, but I can't sit in them anymore. I've still been getting things done. I've still been hustling the way that I need to, even through the worst of it. But now it's time to really hit the ground running. Because she deserves the happiness and the life that she wants. And come hell or high water, I'm going to be the one to give it to her. tell your person you love them as much as possible, as often as possible. But don't just tell them, show them. Hope everybody has a good week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. If you like this episode or know someone who would, please help us grow the show by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Keep up with all episodes on Buzzsprout or anywhere else you get your podcasts.